dog, and he was just a little tiny pup then. So we took him in. We went and looked at him first, and Gary and I went into Crystal's office, and for an hour, he said no. And we brought the dog home. So,
See how that works out. I'm sure you've been there too.
But he's been a great dog. I'm so glad you invited us to come here. I have worked with a trainer in Goshen, Trusting Training. Christine is a great woman. Came to our house for 6 weeks. Then she will take him to her house for what we call finishing school. She called it boot camp. We don't want to refer to it, that seemed kind of harsh. But he will go there and finish up his training. She did work with us on, we did not know what we were doing. We didn't realize how much we didn't know what we were doing until we went from a 3-pound dog to a 62-pound pup.
Oh, wow.
But he has 3 signals for everything. There's a sit, then there's a hand signal, and then there's a touch. And the same with lay down. For everything we do with them, there's 3 signals, and in a high distraction environment like this, it's always the touch. We also have this, which is a beep or a vibrate. There's no shock to it. But that's who we are. I am a former foster parent. I was a foster parent in LaGrange County for 10 years. I've had over 30 foster kids in and out of my home. I adopted one of my foster children. We have 7 kids between us, and one of my children was adopted out of foster care. I have a real passion for foster kids in this county, and as teachers, or any adults around, we see what kids go through in this community. And I think our foster care system does the best they can, but it needs help and support. I did bring you guys some literature on the farm place that I'll have here for you if you want to read more about it. Foster care in this county really hasn't changed a whole lot. You get the kids, they call you, you bring them into your home, and then they have visits. The most important thing with foster care is reunification. That's the #1 thing. You want these kids to get back to their home. You're not taking them away from their families. They want to get back. One of my children out of 30 went up for adoption. Reunification is everything. To keep that going, you have to have visits. The younger the child, the more visits they get per week. So if you get a baby, you may have 4 or 5 visits a week that these parents get with their child. If you have a teenager, it could be 1 or 2 a week. They're less the older the kids get, but you want to keep that relationship with the parent and child. That's really the most vital thing with foster care. One of the things that always made me uncomfortable was with a baby, they don't know where they are. You can take them anywhere, they can visit with their parents, their grandparents, whoever they're seeing that day, it just doesn't matter. But when you have a junior high or high school kid, and you're visiting at the library, or at McDonald's, or somewhere, there's the town park. I had multiple visits at the town park in LaGrange. I've had visits here in Wolcottville Park. Not that the foster care system is bad, but there's only so many places you can take to have a nice visit. You don't want the parents to have to travel very far. We try to make it as convenient as you can because you want the visits to be positive. That's kind of where the farm is, and that's how I began doing it. I went to DFC with one of my former students. I went to go get some support at Christmas time, and I saw one of these pamphlets at the DFC in LaGrange. Now we've updated it since then, because that was a few years ago. But one of these was sitting in the office, and I picked it up, and I looked through it, and I thought, this is really cool. If they wanted to build a foster home, they wanted to have a place for the kids to go visit foster kids or with their parents, and that was my total involvement, was from one of these flyers. So my involvement really became just calling. I knew some of the people on here because they were also teachers, and I called them and asked them about it. I went to a meeting, and I kind of started just with some fundraising. They needed some help with one of their fundraisers, and that's what I went and did. I helped with the dinner, and I really got to see what this whole vision was, and I cannot tell you how impressed I was with this group of people. We went to a meeting at a church in LaGrange, and I thought, what you're doing is just so unbelievable. At that point, they had 10 acres paid for. There's no debt to the farm place. They work with what they're given. The house, completely paid for. There's a home just north of Pizza Hut in LaGrange. Beautiful, 8-bedroom, multiple bathrooms. Just such a nice place for foster kids to go. There's no big sign out front to protect the kids from their privacy. But this organization, when I started with them, they were already had the ground, they were starting the building, they were working with the community. It was just incredible, and I loved that they just wanted to make sure it was all about the kids. They weren't running in, they were working with what the means that they had to get this going. It all started with Marge Malone, if you know her. She's up in Howe, that's where we live.
Marge was here.
Marge came here and spoke.
She came here, and it was right before the farmhouse was finished.
Mhm.
The funds had already been accrued for that, and so that's as far as we know.
Yeah.
And I think they're getting ready for the barn. Is that
We
right?
are getting ready for the barn. We have had over 50 kids in a couple years go through that house. Not just from LaGrange County, but we've had them as far away as West Lafayette, where they've had emergency placements. And they've called, and she's taking them in. So the foster parents that live there at no cost. They pay their expenses, but they live at that house at no cost. And like I said, the house is completely paid for, the ground is paid for, and it all started with Marge's vision of too many drug busts going on in this county at night. Where do the kids go? And I can tell you, I've had those phone calls at 2 in the morning. Not just from drugs. There can be family issues go on, and you get a call at 2 in the morning, and it's a caseworker, and they're like, we need to place this child. And you go to the hospital and pick them up, or you go to the jail and pick them up, because that's where they are. So, they're out there, and to have 50 kids go through this house already is just amazing. I mean, when we did the latest flyer, we had to change it from 40 to 50, and it's like constantly changing, and that is such a blessing that the house is being used. The kids are going through it. We don't know their names. Our information is boys or girls, teenagers. I talk to the foster parents there, but we don't publish any personal information about kids. But the majority of them are from LaGrange County. And I can tell you, out of my 10 years experience, all my kids came from Pocatello, Howe, or LaGrange. And they come from many, many different reasons. And we have such a great support system here. As a teacher, I can tell you that I would get a kid on one day, and the next day, all the school they went to, which was not where I was going, a teacher would meet me in a gas station parking lot, take the kid to school, so they wouldn't get any disruption. I mean, we do have this underground support system that works for the kids. That maybe we didn't change their schools, or we didn't want to change their environment. But what the farm place is doing is just really incredible. And like we said, what we've accomplished so far is paying for the property, paying for the home, having a foster parent in there, having 50 kids already come through. There's been a couple that have been long-term young ones. She's had for over a year. We have over $200,000 saved to put toward the barn, which will be an animal companionship barn, and that's kind of where we're going now. So where we're moving to now is into the Animal Companionship Center. And that's really important to me because so many of these kids, when you get a foster child, and I can just tell you, like, for example, I had a group of 3. A lot of times they come in groups of two or three kids, and there was a 4th grade girl, and she had never been to a beauty salon to get her hair cut, and didn't even know that book existed, where you can look in a book and pick out how you want your hair to look, and they did it for her. And I remember her teacher, she went to Lima Brighton, and her teacher emailed me at work that day and said, "You would not believe how all the little girls are just swarmed around her, touching her hair, because she was never the center of attention, and it was just, she lit up from having her hair done. Or, you know, I love horses, and we have horses, and I learned how to ride English when I moved here because I didn't even know what that was, or dressage. But when I first started teaching at Lakeland, I taught at Parkside, and some of my kids would come to school and go, oh, we ride English and dressage. I'm like, that is. So I found out where they went, and I started riding there. So over the years, I never got good at it, so I just stick to Western. But over the years, I would get foster kids, and if they want to ride, I would call up G. Martin and take the kids there, and they would take riding lessons. Even if you only have them a week, you do whatever you can to give them those experiences they may never get. And that's the fun thing about being a foster parent, is to give them these things they may never get a dance lesson. Just things like that, having a pet in their life, being around a dog, a cat, a goat, a horse. You want to give them those experiences. The animal companionship barn will start out with smaller animals, because really, as far as the whole dynamics of how it'll work, who's going to be the caregivers for all of this, we don't have all of that worked out yet. So we're going to start with smaller animals. We're going to work with the ag department at Lakeland. We've talked to their ag person about some goats. They're working with goats right now. Like I said, Tucker's in training to be a dog, an animal companionship dog. He will improve his skills as he goes. He's just a pup. But all of this is very good for him in his learning process. We have a horse, well, it's actually a pony, but he's 14 hands. And I've worked with him a lot. We've taken him out in public. We take him to our chicken dinner out by the courthouse. And I have worked with him we've taken balls and bounced him off his back. We take water bottles, and we try to make the animals as safe and bomb-proof as you can to be around public. And but just to give those kids those experiences. If a kid wants to be around a horse, we'll have that available to them. If they want to be around dogs, goats. The Farm Place Animal Companionship Building will also have 2 visitation rooms. One where the kids just go in and start their visit, where they meet their parent, get their backpack off, their coat, just kind of set what they're going to do for that visit. The other room will be a self-contained room. There are times when a parent can't be outside of a room with their children. It has to be completely supervised with somebody from the Department of Family and Children and the child. So we will have a self-contained room there, and that will have a small kitchenette so that they can work on, the skills that they need to be working on to get their child back with them. So it's going to be a multi-purpose building. It will have the office and a visitation room set up, and then the other half of it will be a barn. So we kind of have evolved from having just a barn there to using it as a multi-purpose building. So that's kind of the whole gist of what we're doing. Where do we want to go with this? And we want to just get our word out. If people want to donate, that's wonderful. If you want to just pray for us, that we get the right people to come to the meetings, to hear about us, to pick up these, to be involved any way you can. Like I said, I learned about it from a pamphlet, and that's how I started getting involved. I feel like my gift is working with animals, and we have the time to do that. I've found people that can help me get the animals to where I need them to be to work with children. So that's where I feel that our gift is, and what we're going to give to the Farm Place. If you have a gift, we'd love for you to feel, how do you want to be involved with us? We'd love to have you involved. Money is great, but we also need prayers, and we need support in the community, that this is here and what we're going to offer. And just when you drive by and see how beautiful it is, I mean, that is just a blessing to have a foster parent in there that's been there for, she's on her second year, or going into her third year there. It's just done, that we found the right person is unbelievable. I mean, because, well, that was a huge challenge when the applications came in. Who was going to live in that home? And will it be the right person? And will they stay in our community and be there for our kids? Because we don't want them to have a lot of changes through. We do, I think animals just have such a important place in our society and with people and how they can connect with people. Right after I retired, and some of you know Joyce Weber, she taught with me at school, and I just love her. And she can talk me into doing anything. And as soon as I retired, she's like, you need to bring your dog, and we're going to go to the nursing home every Wednesday, because I go now, and you need to come with me. So every Wednesday, I showed up in the nursing home at Miller's prior to COVID, and from 11 to 12, we took our dogs in. And I have a little dog who kind of can hang out in a purse. He's right here. And he's the one that he went to nursing home, and you'll see him in just a sec. And this is Wolfgang. And every Wednesday, I would go to the nursing home with Wolfie, and he would go room to room, and then we would always end our visitation in the lobby outside the cafeteria at Miller's, or the dining hall, and the people would talk to him. And I know there's so many different stories of how animals have connected. One time I went into a woman's room. I think she was the oldest resident there, and I went in and loved talking to her every week. She was dolled up, had her jewelry on, sitting there waiting for me, and she said, I don't know what day it is, but I looked out my window this morning and said, I hope that little white dog comes in today. And now he's here. And I just thought, that just made my day. Or to have one of the nurses say, please go into this room. They've been asking what day the dogs come in, they just want to see him. And he could get right on patients and not be too heavy. But Wolfie is not a good dog to work with kids. He's just too small. And he's a little too fragile for that. But he has his gifts and where he can go out and do things. But Tucker is going to be an animal that's better with children. But when you see a little dog like this, it does just get at your heart. You're like, oh, aren't they little, they're sweet. And they just have a place in our world that changes things. So, again, I really want to thank you for, I know you've supported us financially, I know you pray for us, and that's wonderful. And thank you so much for letting us come in and show you what we're doing and where we want to go with the farm place.
Oh, we wanted nothing. Yeah.
It's really, it is very easy to get defeated when you look at the price going from a $350,000 building to, adding another $200,000, and you want to sit there and really be kind of defeated. And what was so nice is, one of the people on the board last time said, that doesn't matter. We're still moving forward. And it was like, we needed that one person to just kick us all and say, no, set that aside. We're moving ahead. We're getting this done. Do what we can today. And yeah, the prices have gone up, but we're still going to do it. We're not going to let anything get in our way. So, yes.
Do you take volunteers there?
We will, once it gets up and running, we definitely will, yes, because we're going to need volunteers for all kinds of things, and that's why, just keep us in mind when you drive past and see things going. We do have the driveway will be going in, that is already scheduled. We have a local person that's going to be doing the excavation and starting the driveway. We're just going to do what we can, because like I said, this building will be paid for when it's up. There will be no debt, so we're going to do what we can and keep moving. So, but we're, like I said, we're super excited about it. And that chewing you heard was not Tucker taking down your pew, it was his. It doesn't sound like he's taking the house down.
That Amber was twice that size when he started.
Yeah. We had a little girl, we first got Tucker. We got Tucker and we didn't realize that well, we didn't want to get a dog. That was not,
I'm second in command here, he always wants to go to her, and when I tell him to do something, you know how kids are, he'll look at her first. Then he may or may not do it if she tells him to.
so we took him to, and I don't know if you know the Klopfensteins, great family. I needed a babysitter for a dog that was already a 10-pound pup at that point. And so I called her up and I'm like, can you watch him? We had a vacation plan. And so we left and we come back and I thought, I had worked with him really hard for like 2 weeks. And I thought, well, if they mess him up, it's okay, Their daughter brought him to our house. He was probably 16 years old. She goes, now Jackie, let me tell you, when he looks at your hand, you give him this bone. And you tell him to chew that. And it was the cutest thing because I thought, I was so worried about my dog needing more work when I came back. They had worked with my dog for an entire week and they brought me a better dog that I dropped off with them with a bone. And what else? And she just had all this advice for me and I had to sit there and just like, okay. Thank you. But it was really fun. And again, how do you find people like that? It just happens. Those things that God puts in our path for us. So, just like He did both of these dogs and Crystal. And I still send Crystal emails and tell her what Tucker did. And I will tell you this one story about a church that I went to in November with Tucker. And I was working, the trainer was coming to our house then. And she said, don't take him out. You need to really get him, he probably shouldn't go to that church. And of course, I took him to the church. And then when I finished with him up at the front, they asked me if I would take him into the Sunday school. And I said, sure. So I took him in and made him lay down because kids are only supposed to approach him when he's down because he's got a Labrador tail and a lot of energy. So the trainer has us keep him down in a laying position. He was laying there, and as a teacher, when kids do something in a room, sometimes you just let it go. So this kid's whipping off his shoes and his socks, and I'm just talking to him about Tucker and keeping him down. And the little boy he put up his foot and goes, look at me, I look just like Tucker. And he had half his toes gone. And that's the one thing that I'll leave you with. He may reach a child who is different on the inside. Foster kids are. That little boy was different on the outside. But many of those foster kids are different on the inside. And you can dress them up. And you can make them look like you. And you can give them a lesson or give them an experience. But they know they're different. And he's different. And I think, that's why, we're working so hard with him to train him to be a really good dog because he will reach people. Just like this little guy, can reach, all these people in a nursing home. And I could tell you so many stories of people who have come up about him at the nursing home. And, Tucker will have that. Sorry, I wasn't gonna. But it is, I'll leave you with that. And thank you again for having us here. I will leave you with, this was our mailer that we sent out. It kind of tells you what's going on. I don't know if you guys have gotten one of those. And then these are just our pamphlets. And we update them quite often, just putting in new board members or new people who are involved. So, and if you know anybody here, even if you don't, call us, we'll give you any information. And like I said, I will leave these here. And thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, she mentioned that, but we do support the farm on a regular basis, at least once a year and sometimes more. We did send some money from some of the funds we raised, I think it's a garage sale or one of the sales that we had. So it's a very good project to support, and we do on a regular basis send them some money. So why don't we have a word of prayer? Father God, we are so grateful for people who are willing to step out and help others. We thank you for the work of the farm and those people involved in that. The need is great. Thank you for their work. Bless us now in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's rise and turn to page 677. They'll know we are Christians.
We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. And we pray that our unity may one day be restored. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. We will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand. We will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand. And together we'll spread the news that God is in our land. They will know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. We will work with each other, we will work side by side. We will work with each other, we will work side by side. And we'll guard each man's dignity and save each man's pride. They will know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. By our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. By our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. All praise to the Father, from whom all things will come, and all praise to Christ Jesus, his one and only Son, and all praise to the Spirit who makes us all as one. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. Oh, they will know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love.
The Lord bless you and keep you and watch over you.